Alright, we are the Fair Chase Outdoors team here. We're going to be doing a lot of video in this year. We're new. I'm Blake Hartzell.
I'm Bracken Bruner.
Dennis Toole. These are our guys that are mainly in the field, doing a lot of hunting. You know, I'm mainly going to be behind the camera in the beginning, but I'll be mostly talking on all these tutorial videos and stuff like this. The actual outdoors hunting and stuff will be these two guys. We got a fishing group too that goes out and does fishing stuff all over, you know, all over the place. So we'll have a bunch of, you know, just a wide variety of videos for just the average do-it-yourself guys. We're do-it-yourself guys. We're not sponsored by anybody by any means. This is our company, Fair Chase Outdoors. It is 100% Fair Chase. It's not behind any fences. It is not, we're not, I mean, we're gonna have food plots. We don't do any baiting during season. You know, we have natural food plots. That is the way to do it. So if you just stick with us, subscribe to us, we're gonna have tons of awesome footage. We're beginners, but man, we really get out there and we get after it. So anyways, again, we got Bracken, Dennis. These guys are a huge help. I mean, they put in hours and hours of effort to provide a good deer season, you know, and even it's just so hard. You gotta have a couple guys. So yeah, thanks to these guys. Hey, I'm Blake with Fair Chase Outdoors. This segment is going to be on how to run a feeder during the off season, when to run a feeder during the off season, where to put your feeder. We're going to also go into what to feed your deer and why not to feed them a certain item, you know. So we're going to start off on just the feeder in general. It's always good to have a nice, decent sized feeder. This is a 30-gallon from Academy, which I did a review on, the cheaper one that I got just a week ago. So watch that video. This one here we've been using for a couple years, which is, it's got mower marks where the mowers hit it. It's heavy duty. So we're gonna go into it. This feeder can hold about, it says it holds 220 pounds. I wouldn't do 220 pounds just because it starts to get seriously heavy, you know. So if you ever have to move this alone or whatever, you are going to be in some serious pain later. We put our feeder back in a secluded area. As you can see, we're in here. We're right next to a creek bank. This is a pinch point. This is a main corridor for deer to travel. So what makes us want to put it here is those big deer that are typically, you know, a little bit older and just more wise. You don't want to put your feeder in the middle of a wide open pasture, because those big deer have a home that they tend to stay in. They like to stay secluded, and they will pass up, you know, some BBJ or whatever out of a feeder, because they associate feeder in the open. You know, what do you associate that with? I would think, I mean, easy vantage points. They're gonna, you know, they're not dumb. So what we do is we just kind of, we're not gonna put it tucked away. We want to get it out in the open where we can have a wide variety. You know, everything can come in here and eat and graze and do whatever. So, and it's by a water source. So I mean, they could bed 40, 50 yards away, and our feeder's, you know, 50 yards away, and we got a 40 yards away as a water source, and it's moving water. So it's not stagnant, although I wish we did have some stagnant water. It provides good minerals and like fibers and stuff out of that stagnant water. We run it on one feed cycle. We do one feed cycle, and this is what, February the 11th, and we don't really have any greens up yet. So that being said, and plus we have not seen a whole lot of deer activity back in this area of our property. So what we do is we want to set it on a low time. We want to set it on a low feed, because there's no sense in wasting, you know, all that feed on nothing. So what we do is we'll set up a one-time feed, probably in the evening, because deer are a little bit more active as the weather starts to change in the evenings. They are more prone to showing themselves in the evenings as in the mornings. The one feed time's just so, again, we don't waste a whole bunch of feed, and we can kind of do a little inventory, you know. That being said, let's go into the feed that we use. This feed here, I choose it because it's a cheaper feed that you can get. I mean, there's BB&J. Those guys are awesome. You know, if I could use it, I would. But it's for the guys that do this, and we're not sponsored by anybody. And you'll hear me say that in the beginning of the video. So we buy this stuff. It's at Academy. It's called Pro Rack Plus. This stuff has almost the exact ingredients as Big & J does. But Big & J is a little bit more expensive, like I said. You get a 40-pound bag versus the $40 40-pound bag. It's $9.99 for this bag at Academy. And it holds proteins, fibers, crude fat, everything that you want in your deer in a late season to get that antler growth, or to get that milk in the doe good for a fawn that, you know, she just got bred last year. So this is the prime time for her to get every nutrient that she can out of her out of the feed that is supplied. And as you can see, I mean, if there's not many grain fields around, and grain at this time of the year isn't even the best, and I'll go into that here in a second. Our second feed choice is going to be this Texas Hold'em. Now, the reason I use Texas Hold'em is because it has something that Pro Rack Plus lacks, and that is fiber. You see, a deer at this time of year, their digestive system is trying to cross over into the survival, because there's not much food left for them to forage on. I mean, like, you'll see sawdust. Deer love that sawdust. You see them eating bark, is because their stomach is trying to digest all of this abundance of corn and all that. So it's kind of hard on their stomach. And going into that, the corn that we supply them, I mean, there's guys out there that feed nothing but corn all year round. And corn, I'll just show you. Corn has absolutely barely anything for whitetail. I mean, you'll actually see, I mean, you got 6% protein, 18% protein. You have 2% fat. This has got 12% fat. Crude fiber, 4%. Here's where I go into the 15%. That's why I buy this, because it's got the fiber that I need. So, and it has whole oats, roasted soybeans, whole corn as a filler. We even add just a 40-pound bag of corn for another filler. Again, we want to have a full feeder. You want to have them, you want to give them choices. So we give them choices, but we give them the right kind of choices. And we should see, you know, you should see deer on your feeder within 2 or 3 days of putting this out there, because this is what they're looking for. So if you put it in a spot where it's not hard for them to get to, and it's not, you know, pressured by a ton of human, you know, foot, anything like that. If you stay out of the ground and you just let your feeder do its work, I promise you will see an increase in deer on your property in the late off season. Now, with that being said, at the same time, doesn't mean you can just set this feeder and leave it all year round. You have to have times where you set, feed, they know where it's at, and typically you want to set it where there's going to be food later. And we are standing in a plot that is going to be a green food plot. We're going to make this a food plot so that they know food's here, they associate it. Food's here, they know where to come. So I would just urge everybody to try to, you know, think about what you're feeding your deer. It all makes a difference. You think it doesn't, but everything you do with deer hunting, even if you're feeding them just to watch them, feed them the right thing, because deer will overload on corn, and they will actually gorge in corn, and they will die. And a lot of people that don't really pay attention don't see that, but if you just read, just do some read up on it, read about it. Corn is terrible for deer in the off season because they're looking for the protein. That has Alright guys, Dennis Tool live with you here.
Fairchase Outdoors. We're standing in what's going to be our food plot. We got our feeder set up as you saw in earlier videos. Everything is set and ready to go. All we got to do is get our camera set in place. That way we can see what's coming in, what's going out, where it's coming from, and what we need to feed for. Alright, so before we leave, we want to put our cart in. We got our camera mounted, as you can see. This is about 15 yards from the property line, and our food plot is on the property line. It's about, I'd say, 2,000 square foot here, and our feeder's in the corner of it for now till we get the plot actually dug up and the food coming up from the ground here in about a month when the weather changes. So to do this, like I said, this is already mounted, ready to go. So all we need to do is turn it on, make sure everything's good to go there. We got no SD flashing. We're going to take our card, make sure it's facing the right direction. This here card we're using is a SanDisk 16 gigabyte. We used to use 8s. We got quite a few pictures on them, but if we left them for a month or two without touching them, we'd run out of pictures. It wouldn't take enough. So we go with a 16 for a couple reasons. One of those is we can get about 1,000 pictures instead of 450 that we used to get on our 8 gigabyte. On top of that, we can get about, I'd say, 5 or 6 hours of video all together. So we stick that in, make sure it's all reading right. Our time and date is set. So all we should have to do now is close this bad boy up, and our camera is ready to go. So before we walk out, we want to cover our steps. We use this Evolve 3D Next Generation Dead Downwind. Now, that's not because they're sponsoring us. As you heard earlier, we don't have any sponsors. We buy all this ourselves. This is a Wild Game Innovations camera. Not the best you can get, but it is a good camera. Worked out good for us last year. We're going to try it again this year. The Evolve 3D, so far, we've had a lot of good luck with it. Now, we put this camera at the edge of the food plot so that from the truck or four-wheeler or however we come in, we can just walk right to the edge of the plot and not have to go through any place that we think the deer might actually be traveling as heavily as the edge. So we're going to spray this thing down. The bark, everything I've touched with my fingers, I'm going to make sure that that deer does not associate this camera with human or with danger. We're going to wipe off the lens because we want to make sure it takes really good pictures. Nice and clear, clean and crisp. Now that we got all that done, we're going to back out slow, and that will be the end of this session, training you guys how to do trail cameras on the food plot.
Alright, I'm back, Blake, with Fairchase Outdoors for the part 2 of this feeder deal. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to mix it up, put it in your feeder, and run it. That way it's evenly distributed throughout the feeder, so you're not just feeding one feed and then the second feed, the third feed. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this Pro Rack, and we're going to drop a half a bag of corn into that Pro Rack. Once we do that, I'm going to have to tell Dennis, another Fairchase member, that he needs to sharpen his knife.
I'll come help you dump this corn in anyway.
I'm telling you what. Nice for a little help every now and then.
It's going to make that bag that much heavier to get up in the feeder, though, I guarantee you.
Alright, so we got to come over here. And just pick it up and shake it. Now we're just going to dump it. Good. So now we take this bag and we dump this Texas Hold'em in there with this butter knife we brought from home.
Smells good.
It's got a good aroma, this Texas Hold'em does. And then this corn. We probably don't even use that whole bag of corn. Texas Hold'em still has corn in it. Alright, now we dump that in there. About half full. Now we got our last bag of Pro Rack. We're gonna dump that whole sucker in there.
Dump that corn in there.
Yeah, I guess a 40-pound bag ain't gonna hurt. We'll dump that and we'll top it off with it. Alright. Ooh. Oh yeah, she's nice and full now. I don't know if I can get that out of there. Oh shit. Tell you what. I need to cut that bag open better. Hold on. Alright.
It may seem like a lot of work doing this stuff whenever it's way off season, but I'm telling you,
You have
what, to get the payoff.
And whatever you got left over, you can just scatter. Our timer's already set. So what we're gonna do is we got our one feeding time at 4:30. We're gonna run a test.
Stand back for the test.
Yeah, because you will get hammered. There's our test. Looks like it put out quite a bit. Good for one feed time. Got our Pro Rack already cycled through there. We might bump it up a little bit. What do you think? Right now we're only at 5 seconds. We're only at 5 seconds. Set our time to 4:15. We'll do 8 seconds on high.
Get a lot of food out there till they know where it is at least.
Put it on ready. 2:30.
Lock it in and go.